got any Waterford?
What's up, people?
Hey, Thursday Night Live, Scotch Ford.
Boom. Four of us.
Welcome.
In the house.
Man, it's going to be a good show tonight.
Good
we're
topic.
We're even wearing the same shirts.
Interesting. We got the memo.
Coordinated.
It's good. It's good.
That's
Who
right.
the hell did that?
Not the same hat though.
No, that's cool though.
No,
I
we
mean,
have
I
vintage,
don't-
we have classic, and we have something else.
It's
Peaky Blinders.
I did
Need a
restart
Scotch
watching
for
that show
Dummies
again.
version.
Yeah.
But
Oh, that's an idea with the logo right here.
Yeah.
oh, we
Maybe
could
we
do
should
that.
get some of those.
Yeah, I can
Oh,
do that.
if Drew
Guys,
ever could get on the team.
My wife has wanted me to get a hat like hats like that.
Is she?
See?
Is she
I
really?
know, I'm setting
I'm getting
trends.
bald.
Or Stetson.
Keep it warm.
Ooh.
Anyway, guys,
Big ass on the
welcome
front.
to the show tonight. It's 9:30 our time, so we started a half hour earlier to give you extra half hour to enjoy some scotch with us tonight or some other whiskeys. But welcome.
And a good topic. We actually have, we're going to keep to the theme and what we did last week. We've got a patron guest tonight. We'll get another meet the patron. But a good topic. We're going to drink some good scotch we got out on the bar. Just
Ooh, yeah, we do.
we didn't bring any
P21.
mothball distilleries, but we brought some old stuff out, and I'm excited about that.
51 years right there.
Damn.
I'm probably the only one who has an open
Yes, you
mothball
are.
bottle.
An open
right?
one. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to open.
And why didn't you
No.
bring it?
Honestly, I was carrying another bottle over. I couldn't carry everything in my arms. Sorry.
But nevertheless, happy Thursday, gentlemen.
Happy Thursday.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah. Let's see what we have on real quick. We got Tom R on, Jeff Timmy. Good to see you as well.
Hey, this is one of
Hi,
Timmy's
Tom.
bottles.
It is
Trooper.
one of Timmy's bottles, so that's
It
where
is.
this 30-year-old canvas came from.
Yep.
He'll be excited to see that.
Tom's got a Cadenhead bottle in him. Yeah, that's nice. Time for a dram. Good to see you.
Wow, Tom R is talkative tonight.
You, my
Oh, yeah,
man.
time. I mean, he was sitting there waiting. So.
So is Gregor. Gosh, man, they're having
Jimmy
a
Jazz is
conversation.
there.
Jimmy Jazz, good to see you.
Me, myself.
Stephen
Yeah,
Ryan.
Ethan.
Me, my wife,
or
and
Hannah.
whiskey.
Ever win?
Morpheus.
And Stephen Rogers.
First
Yeah.
live, he's caught. Welcome. Welcome.
First
Awesome.
live. Well, cheers
Cheers
to
to
you.
that.
Yeah, hell yeah. It's good to hear.
All right, so let's get going on. Oh,
Oh,
hold on. Time out.
Back up.
I got to
What?
pull this from the chat.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-oh.
Dude, that is the OG.
Blast in the past.
So-
Love
One of
that
the
guy.
OGs.
So this
right
guy's
there.
up pretty late, right?
Yeah.
What time
Or
is it
you
over
could
there?
say early.
Yeah, whatever.
Holy
Either
Bear
way.
was our first guest
Ever.
that we ever had live.
Yeah.
Yep. Good to see you, man. I hope things are
Cheers.
well on your side of the pond and you guys are enjoying 2025 in Germany.
So, Sean, I remember when we first started and we were going through some stuff and learning. Obviously, we were dummies. but I remember going through some things. I remember the first time you said mothball. And at the time, I was like, well, what does that even mean?
Yeah, and we actually had a couple of mothballed bottles that had been sent to us that sat on my bar because we didn't know anything about the distilleries. We were like, what is this weird? Like, I've never heard of this
How do you
distillery.
pronounce this? Dallas what?
Yeah, it was actually Port Ellen.
Oh,
Oh, it was Port Ellen. That's
I
right.
remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Alan Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that Port Ellen sat on my bar for quite a while.
Months.
And
Like what?
I think Alan was very patient at the time because we obviously didn't know what he had said. Right. But Mothballed Distilleries. So Scotland goes through these boom and bust cycles of whiskey, and actually brown spirits in general does. And the reason we're covering this is because it was announced, this week? Yeah, this week, right?
Yeah.
That there's a specific distillery that is actually being mothballed. And to my knowledge, that's the first one in a long time.
Well,
right?
and I don't know if it's truly being mothballed per se, in the fact that they're actually going to still do some distilling there from their sister.
They're having a
distillery.
silent season though.
Yeah.
They are not distilling this year, so that is a mothballed distillery. It's still functional, right? Hence the mothballing term. They're closing it down or limiting its production because of reduced demand, right? There's not as many, and throughout the history of Scotch, there's been multiple times where they've done this, whether it be, wartime shortages, so think World War II, World War I, where there's a shortage of resources, shortage of manpower. I don't think they were stopping drinking then.
No,
Prohibition in the Americas actually was kind of a good thing for Scotch because they sold us a lot of whiskey while we were not drinking over here. So I think that there's definitely some boom and bust cycles, and the big one that is closest in our timeline was during the 80s.
The mid-'80s, really.
And that was an economic recession that, kind of hit everything.
Well, and that was the trend towards Zima and the
it was
white
kind of
spirits,
both.
vodkas,
Because it was a trend toward that, but it was also an economic downturn in Great Britain that kind of shuttered a lot of things. So when that happens, if there's not as much demand, and a lot of these distilleries, when you good?
Yeah.
When you're talking about boom and bust cycles, when it's a boom cycle, everybody's making money, whiskey's selling like crazy. They want to increase production capacity. The downside with brown spirits, all brown spirits really, is that they have to age for a certain amount of time. And because they have to age, once you've sold through the stock that you have, you're kind of out of luck. Like, it is what it is, right? And in this case, we're starting to see some decline in sales, and you were just talking about 2024, how at least the first half of the year, they've seen a decline.
Yeah, so if you look at the year of the sales volume and value for Scotch in the first half of 2024 was down like 10 to 18% just since 2023. Now, we don't have the data in for the end of 2024 yet, but it was not good. It was a big downturn. You saw Glenmoe go to take their 10 and make it a 12.
Which is crazy.
Which tells me that they've got so much whiskey that's 12 years old that you might as well put a name on it because you can sell it for 10, but you might as well call it 12 if you got the 12-year-old whiskey that is sitting there.
But when you think back to the last 10 years of us doing this, you guys, when we first started our first couple of years of doing reviews, we really went out of our way to research the hell out of distilleries and the history. And we used to bring a map of where's the distillery, and it's a repeating story. How many freaking distilleries have been mothballed, sat, sold, rebought, and reopened?
Yep.
And the irony, the cool thing I think it's interesting about it though is when a distillery would shut their doors and mothball, if you will, it's just the whiskey sat there. The whiskey stays. So the new buyer comes along and they're like, yeah, man, we'll open this place up, and they get all the whiskey too. And that's how you ran into that Glendronach weird time where you were buying an 18, but it was 23 years old and stuff like that. But we may see some more distilleries mothballed here in the future if there's a downturn and demand goes down. They can't afford to keep those things open. So we were talking about it before the show came on. What happens when that happens, right? A lot of us have bottles in our bars. You sit on these for a couple of years, and the next thing you know, these are relics, right? And
they haven't made it in a long time, and you can't get them anymore.
Right.
So I know for a fact that we've had, so like the Glendronach is a good example of us sampling whiskey from a mothballed distillery that was refired up, right? And then you've got some mothballed distilleries that, like I'm thinking like a Dallas Dew, right? The distillery is still there. It's actually a museum. Like you can go and visit it, but they're not actively distilling at this point. Although there's talk about them refiring the stills up, and I hope they do because I love my Dallas Dew.
So they still have the stills. They didn't
Yes,
get stolen.
it is a working museum.
working,
So you can go in and actually visit the distillery and kind of go through it and see like, here's the wash tub, and here's all of the equipment is still in place, still functional, and they're actually thinking about doing. From what I've read, they're talking about doing like small runs, just to like kind of. It's more of a display piece than it would be like for profit, but actually put through some whiskey through the thing and show people how it's done, which would be awesome. I would definitely sign up to go do that. But then you've got other distilleries that were mothballed that are more like a Port Ellen, that were, sold for scrap. Yeah. And they kept the whiskey stock. You can still buy Port Ellen whiskey, but the distillery itself is gone.
The copper's gone, the building.
Right, the distills are gone. You'll never be able to reproduce exactly that.
Well, tonight's trivia, which is later on, is all about closed distilleries. No, it's okay. It's okay. But when I was putting some stuff together, and by the way, the list is like 30 plus that I had already. I imagine there's a lot more, but it's so interesting to hear the stories back then. Most of them are very early 1900s, and just the stories, like you said, like why did they close? Well, bad timing, because a lot of it. They didn't feel like that the stills were cooking, so they sold the stills to someone else, or someone bought them. Right. There was a good time chunk where business was just bad.
It was bad.
Yeah. Well, and you're also talking about turn of the century. A lot of them it was an independent owner, right? It's just one dude, or maybe a family that is distilling grain that they're raising on their farm, and it's more of a transport thing, right? Like it's way easier to haul 5 bottles of whiskey down to the city than it is all of this barley.
Grain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting facts about how many people were it was originally a farm, and it was some kind of flour mill or something, cotton mill, and they said, hey, let's throw some whiskey in here, and it was one of those things. It was like, we already have the stuff. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Not like today's situation where you're buying a whole building and you're putting all that capital in there.
Well,
and
you do. And there's conglomerates, and there's whiskey buyers, and it's a whole different
system.
It's
a big system now.
Well, not only that, the industry is different in the fact of what you just talked about. A farmer owns a distill. Yeah. I mean, now you've got companies owning distilleries in Scotland that are American companies, or they're not even Scottish companies.
No.
These are, you've got Brown-Forman, who is shutting down, and Glasgow, right?
But they also shut down the cooperage, which blew me.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, that means they don't need the barrels.
So, but they're moving people, right? They're not technically letting them go. They're just kind of.
No, I think they let some go, but
12% of the workforce.
Yeah. Well, they as a company let people go.
Brown-Forman got rid of 12% of their people.
Well, so it sounds like they're trying, okay, I don't know all the details, obviously, but it sounds like they're trying to do some kind of business shifting where they're like, hey, we're not letting everybody go. We're going to shift and close this production down here, but keep it open and then move over here to try buy us some
time. As far as the Scotch Distilleries,
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I think because all these brands have names, and so you want to kind of keep each brand, but you don't need a full-time staff. What are you pointing out?
He's pointing
at a super chat.
Yeah, so we have a goal tonight of super chat.
Where does it
so
say that?
It's in the goals on the chat. So if we get to the goal, one of us has to drink White Walker.
Well, I've already had White Walker tonight, so I'm not drinking it again.
Why did you have it?
Somebody snuck it in one of my blind that I had to do earlier.
I bet he did.
Yeah.
He's a Scotch boy. Don't do about it.
But yeah, the mothballing is something that I don't know that we'll have the same effect back from the 1900s. It's a different culture, different time zone, but it does make you wonder if things are going to start changing, because it does seem like all the things are kind of lining up to be this weird, crazy brown liquor is starting to kind of regress a little bit. Is there going to be some issues with
everybody's ramped up? There's a glut there, and if you look, I don't know if you searched any closed U.S. distilleries.
I haven't.
That's not a trivial number either.
Really?
Yeah. So there's one in D.C. that closed. There's one in Grand Rapids that closed. There's, there's one that's related that Stoli Group owns. That's a whole nother story. But they closed. The 2 distilleries that they had in Russia got taken over by the government because Stoli didn't agree with the invasion of Ukraine, but that's a whole other story. But they also make Kentucky, old Kentucky, or Kentucky Crow, or Kentucky Owl that isn't being made anymore.
It's really good.
Well, your big boys are gonna be fine, right?
But they went into bankruptcy because the Russian government took $150 million in assets.
Well, and
distilleries,
I think the other part of this that you run into is, you've got these large companies, they've got pretty deep pockets to an extent, but the other part of that is they have to spend a lot of money to do their operations. And if you have rum, if you have vodka, if you have gins, if you have, all of these different tequilas, throughout the world, and you've got operations everywhere, that's a big web to try and pay for. And if there's a downturn and 2 or 3 of your lines aren't really selling as well anymore, that's a big problem. Yeah. And now you're starting to shutter stuff that's maybe still selling, but it's just not bringing in enough money to justify it. And you just thin down.
And it's always been a challenge for the whiskey industry to keep things balanced because of the aging time, right? I mean, you look at like with Glenmoe. You said Glenmoe, they're doing away with their 10. Mind blown here. They're going to move it to 12 because all this whiskey's just sitting there. You might as well put the right age statement on it.
Give it credit.
But think about the challenge it is to be a distiller, a whiskey maker, and say, all right, I've got to schedule out how much whiskey I make after maturing for so long, and I'm going to sell it at this period, and I want different age tiers. I want a 10, I want a 12, I want a 15, and it has nothing to do with the upturn or the downturn of the market. You're just trying to play the game with what you know, and then downturns happen, and you're like, oh, shit, we're sitting on a bunch of freaking whiskey. What do we do?
Yeah.
Stop making it.
Well, here's the thing, though. And this is the interesting, if you think about the timeline. So when we first started, I can remember lots of people out there that watched us initially were like, oh yeah, I've got all of this old whiskey that I bought for pennies, right? Like I was pouring Pappy on, fruitcake and stuff. Nobody was paying attention to that stuff. And then you fast forward a couple of years and it's a whole different ballgame, right?
Bottle,
You as a whiskey maker can't really slow down your production because there's a downturn. Now you might not sell as much.
You need it in 10 years.
Right. Exactly. But in 5 years or 10 years, people are going to start drinking that stuff again. And if it takes a little bit longer, it's okay because when it turns back up, now that's a 18-year, it's a 20-year. And I'm charging you for it. I'm just going to sit on it until it's time.
It's a long game, bro.
If you've got the pockets.
So I'll tell you, it's a respectful game that I have because that stuff is hard to do. You're basically gambling on years that you're hoping things. I mean, it's cyclical, right? We talked about the mothballs of that. They're technically maybe not closed down, but they're going to be around for a while, closed for years, or maybe reborn again, like Port Ellen, Aurora, Rosebank. But if you think about like kind of just how things are changing and the cyclical piece of like what happened in the last, like 5 to 6 years of bourbon, like the boom it happened in the 50s and 60s. It was like that, right? And died down and different. So I'm kind of curious now with the cyclical piece of trying to figure out how long to play the game. Like, hey, everyone's buying whiskey. Everybody's doing this stuff. Let's all go in and build all these distilleries. Well, we got to wait 5 years or 3 years for something to come out, and hopefully it works. Some people are making bank. Some people are losing money because
losing their house, right?
We just gambled for 3 years and oh shit.
Yeah, well,
it's down.
So in the restaurant, how far ahead do you plan your inventory in your restaurant? A week? It goes bad, doesn't it?
It's perishable. So, I mean, you've got some stuff you plan out farther in advance because it's commodity prices.
Okay.
So there's definitely some things that you play the game on, but in essence, it's like a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah. So I work in manufacturing pharmaceuticals, and the expiry date is like 1 to 2 years. So you got to plan, and if you overplan, it expires, you wasted money. With the whiskey, can you imagine planning for 12 years from now? How do you even think about what it's going to be like 12 years from now?
And that's what I'm saying. I think that you just keep doing what you're doing and laying down casks, right?
All that cash, you're buying all that grain, you're paying all that energy costs, you're paying for all of
It's a serious investment.
In a time when your company is losing money every year.
Yep.
I don't know how an investor will say, just keep losing money.
It's a 5-year plan, though.
Because probably it'll come back in 5 years.
So that's why Brown-Forman is doing what they're doing.
That's smart.
So they've got 2 distilleries. that they are going to rotate production at, right? They're still laying down casks, but they don't have quite as much money invested in it because they're going to move the employees from one distillery to the other to fire up that distillery for one season, lay down casks for that season, and then move to the other distillery.
Right.
So they'll go back and forth in the hopes of riding it out. Now, my guess would be if they do that for a few years and it doesn't look like it's recovering anytime soon, one of those distilleries is definitely getting closed or sold.
Yeah.
So start getting your cash ready because it comes with all the booze they've already laid
So
down.
they're gambling on different things.
See,
Who's the other partners? Glendronach and who was the other one?
Glendronach, Benriach, and Glenglassaugh.
So Glenglassaugh, so I don't know anything about their business metrics, but I would assume Glenglassaugh is not doing as well as Glendronach or Benriach.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see where they're putting their eggs, right? Like, okay, maybe
Glendronach.
I would say is strong.
Their stuff is so good right now.
And the pricing is strong.
Plethora of it.
Right. Yeah. So that makes sense to kind of figure that out. But man, it's a hard gamble right now.
Well, let's talk about some of the mothball distilleries that we've actually tried.
Yeah, let's do that.
Right? Because we've had a few.
Name them out.
All right, so I have two favorites that are probably unusual that people don't try a lot. Dallas Dew, which we talked about earlier, is still a kind of a museum right now, and then Imperial, which is the one that I actually have opened at my bar right now. That one is gone. That distillery was demolished. It's totally done. But the whiskey is excellent. So if you ever see it anywhere, it's very, very good. The cool thing about mothballed distilleries, like I think you said earlier, Mark, the whiskey's still there.
Right.
Like it's sitting in the Dunnage house and it's still owned by the distillery. And a lot of times it's just sitting there for a long time. So if there's like, a financial dispute or something when the distillery closes, it may sit there for years and years while all of that stuff gets worked out.
And Tom had a comment that fits this conversation. Honestly, a mothball distillery in Scotland is actually good for Scotch.
It is.
It can sit for a long time.
That's right.
It doesn't work in the bourbon industry. Not in that heat.
No.
Can't sit there for a long time.
Oh, that's
Somebody's
a good
got to
point.
do something with that stuff. You know what? You want to mothball a Scotch distillery and let it sit for 10 years? Fine, because in 10 years, it's still good whiskey.
It's interesting investment strategy.
Yeah, 10 years in Kentucky, and you're like, oh, we overcooked it.
Milk's gone bad.
Well,
Yeah, you got to move everything. You got to put fans in there to cool it down, whatever.
And no one's doing that because it's mothball. No one knows
Right.
it, right?
well, and there's two mothball distilleries that are on the comeback.
Yeah,
So
oh,
Port
nice.
Ellen is being reopened, and so is Rosebank.
Yeah, I hope they didn't do this when the market's doing that, because then it's gonna.
Well, I think both of those whiskeys, it's a little different story because they kind of are a cult following
There
of
is.
whiskeys.
There's a niche.
So to me, Port Ellen, Rosebank, what's the Brora, and we've had all three of those. They're all excellent whiskeys.
Really light, bright.
Occasionally, you get one that's not quite as excellent as some of the others, but it is what it is.
Whiskey.
But they kind of have a cult following, and there are people that pay a lot of money because when people went and bought up those mothball distilleries, they started selling some of that aged stock
30-year-old.
and really pushing, and getting people used to their product again. Now, is it going to be the same when they reopen?
It can't be
No,
the same whiskey.
it's not.
Even if they had the mash built onto a tea, the stills, whether they're the same stills or not, if they are the same stills, they haven't been running so long, you're not going to get the same flavor profile.
None of them are the same
Cuts
stills.
will never
Nope.
be exactly the same. Back then, 20, 30, 40 years ago, cuts weren't made with freaking computers and electronic equipment. Cuts were made the good old-fashioned way, like, no, don't go yet. Take a sip. Hit that thing, cut it. That's not how they do it now. I mean, you go to McKellen and watch their distilling process. There's no one tasting shit.
Well, there's nobody even watching. It's all automated.
Right.
When the automated alcohol content gets above a certain point, it automatically switches. And
I don't know. I'm kind of curious about that. I hear what you're saying, but man, if they can reproduce that. What was that? Shackleton. I mean, they can reproduce anything. I mean, I know your point's valid with it's not the same stills, it's not the same equipment, the recipe. I mean, people can reproduce.
I'm not
I
saying
don't have
it's
much
not
faith.
good.
I mean, you could create-
But you don't know. They said they reproduced it. Did you have the original stuff to compare? No. It's still good. That's what I'm saying. It'll never, ever be. You can't. I mean, there's been stories of distilleries that cleaned their stills and were like, "Oh shit, what did we do?"
Yeah.
It doesn't taste the same. I mean,
You gotta build that sludge.
right,
You need that.
It's there for a
Sludge is
reason.
good.
right.
Sludge is good.
So, do you guys have a favorite mothball distillery that we've tried?
I don't know if I
Is
have
that
a
the bar that
favorite.
we had our 6-year or what? No, it was
No, it was a Rosebank.
8-year.
Was it?
No, the one at my restaurant.
Yeah.
That was a Brora.
Oh, was it Rose?
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was so
that was
good.
really good.
It was an old whiskey. So when you
So
think it was
finesse.
what 30, 35.
32-ish.
So it was over 30 years old. And you think a 30-year-old whiskey, it's going to be heavy, it's going to be musty,
no, it was
it's going to be.
bright.
It was like the brightest, freshest
It was good.
whiskey I've ever tasted. I mean, it just had all these flavors coming through, and like, this is not a 30.
No, and I feel like those, especially those three that we've been talking about, Port Ellen, Rosebank, and Brora, like the reason they have a cult following was because as they sat and aged and were, mothballed forever, their whiskey just turned into something amazing.
Right.
And they're all three different. It's not like they're similar
No,
profiles or anything, but
completely
they're just really wonderful whiskeys. And so I'm kind of curious, in 30, 40, 50 years, will they talk about Glenglassaugh like that? Like, oh man, you should try this 40-year-old that's
Probably
been sitting
not.
there forever.
I don't know.
Well, you never know.
Well, it all comes down to their spirit. And, the spirit and the aging.
Well, the wood. I mean, there's a lot of
I mean, the
variables.
done age, all that kind of stuff. But if you don't have to start with a good spirit, and I don't know, Glengrassaugh's spirit is, there are a lot of the young stuff I'm not a huge fan of, so maybe that's why.
But think about it this way. At one point, in the 80s or whenever, it looks like most of them closed in the 80s or early 90s, somebody was like, who wants to drink this? Nobody's buying this.
Right, they closed it for a
And they
reason.
shut them down.
They weren't selling. That's why they
Right.
closed it.
And so, for whatever reason, people weren't buying them. And then 20, 30 years later, people are like, this is the best whiskey I've ever had in my entire life. Why don't we reopen
So you're
this?
saying in 2060 that Glenglassaugh might be
It
one of
might
those.
be great.
Well,
if,
but
yeah.
they closed. So are you telling me that the young Broras and the young Port Ellens of the world weren't anything special?
I mean, we'll find out, right?
I think there's some interesting points to this, but a lot of it is just pure luck of timing, like everything else in the world. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've only had a few Port Ellen, Brora, and Rosebank, and they've been phenomenal. But how much of phenomenal is it tied to they were mothballed?
It's 30 years old for one.
Well, that's true.
And it's, yeah.
Well, it'll also be interesting because, you're walking into a Dunnage house and they have the pick of their casks, right? So if you're doing a Port Ellen, and they don't release all the Port Ellen right now, right?
Oh,
so they're
that's a
going
good
through
point.
and they're picking specific casks to release. And they only release this much every year,
Yeah, a
which
couple
keeps the
casks
price
a year.
high. It keeps the cult status going. Everybody's got the fear of missing out. If you haven't tried one, you got to try one, right? And so I wonder how much of it is them being very specific with the casks.
They've
pick.
got to have some garbage casks.
I would think.
I mean, just
have
by
to.
the
Come
nature
on.
of the cask selection and the barrel age and the type of wood and all that kind of stuff, there's got to be some casks that
If
just
they
like
were hitting
fell
home runs
apart.
on every cask, they would have never mothballed.
You know what I would do if I had a
I
couple
mean-
of those? I would be like, you know what, this isn't the best, but you know who's buying? I'm gonna sell it to Johnny Walker for their Ghost and Rare, and they can pour it in with a bunch of other stuff and make it better.
That's true. Because doesn't Port Ellen own? Isn't Diageo own Port Ellen? Port Ellen?
Maybe now, they didn't then.
Well, no, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a
wouldn't
good
you?
point. Yeah, I would.
That's what I'm talking about.
Man, we got some good whiskey up here.
Yeah, I didn't want to push the cork off
Well-
because I was afraid it was going to break.
To wrap up this a little bit, are we worried about a cascade effect? I mean, this is the first one.
Yes. I have a feeling. I got in my gut. I'm thinking brown spirits are on the decline, and distilleries are going to be struggling for the next 5 years.
Más tequilas.
I don't know that it's going to be. I think it's hard to disagree with you. I want to disagree. I think we're definitely on a ramp down, but I don't know.
So if you've got money, you buy the dip.
I'm not
You buy it when
worried.
you think it's like brown wood liquor will never come back. That's when you buy, because in about 2 years.
And Andrew's talking about buying a distillery, not a bottle.
That's the key, though.
We're not-
Oh,
we're
yeah.
talking by the cask, by the pallet of cask.
I'll buy Glenglashau from them in 3 years.
Yeah, but the problem is it's a timing from consumer to what they're doing, right? So the trend's going down. Okay, we're not making stuff. But the time when it comes to us, it's almost like our live show is 30 seconds delayed. 6 months from now is when the prices might start coming down because they got to make their money on the year ahead of time.
Oh yeah, sure.
So it's going to take a year or so for us to maybe see this. So if it's coming down now, we're not really going to start seeing the true buying power until a year from now.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, I would say if it's a 5-year, 10-year cycle, you're probably talking 2 to 3 years, 4 years down.
That long
before it comes back up.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what it may do is like it'll come down and level because people still will drink whiskey. People like whiskey. It's a common thing, but it's not trendy. And so when you got to make sure you're in the trendy area.
Can I call TV timeout?
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you guys tried that OP21?
No.
I'm sitting here just
still
savoring
sipping
it.
my brain.
I'm rinsing
This
the
is
glass.
delicious. By
It's
the way.
flipping ass good. I mean, I'm sitting here sniffing this OP21. I'm like, it's the malt madness that I remember. Man, you remember how much we went through that when we were in New York with KB? So, I mean, it's just a phenomenal dram. Damn, is it good.
Super chat. Even the 1800s reputation for being the best you could get, and they didn't age it 30 years then. Ooh, that's an interesting
So
point.
that's their distillate. That's
Yeah.
all about their distillate.
Yeah. Oh,
But
Steve
it's-
A's gonna pull. He's gonna do OP21.
China.
Pull out the oldies tonight, guys. It's old
We're
times.
gonna catch up on these chats.
Yeah.
We got caught in the conversation here, guys, and that's kind of what
And we
Thursday
We
night.
have a guest waiting for us too.
We do.
We do have
We
a
do
guest,
have a
and he's
guest.
sitting there looking all pretty. I'm excited to get him on.
He's a good-looking guy, isn't he?
That's his pretty look.
He's a good.
All right.
He's a good
All right.
lad.
He's got
But
way
you
more,
know, he's not in a kilt. I'm just so disappointed.
he's got way more
You're
hair,
giving it away. Stop it.
way more hair than me too. So
But I mean, your interesting point. Timing is interesting with all
Yeah.
this. Mothballed, and I love the story behind that. It's a sad story, but it's an interesting story. But we are in a kind of a weird situation, boys. Like things are kind of like.
what I hope is these distilleries don't like get looted for all the copper and that kind of stuff. Because that's what happened to some of that happened to Rosebank and Port Allen. Well, I don't remember which ones.
I worry more about them losing institutional knowledge. Like they've got to lay people off, and those people go get different jobs in
Experience.
different fields,
Yeah.
and then when they're ready to fire these stills back up, those people just aren't there. And the expertise is gone, and you just don't know.
Yeah.
You
It's
know.
like starting over.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've read lots of stories of, especially distilleries that were mothballed for a significant length of time, and you just can't find the people to fire things back up the way it
Hopefully
was.
they're documenting what they did and what their successes were. So so there's at least a written document. Of,
Do you like writing down everything that you do for your successor to come in and do it for you?
well, if you're closing the distillery,
I like when you first started. I was like, I say, and then you're like, yeah, right. No, I'm not gonna break it.
I'm gonna write all this down so after you lay me off, somebody can come and do it
so
for
where
me.
are we on this counter?
We are 4 in. We got 6 more to go.
Okay, thank God you have a way to count this because I
Yeah.
haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, but thank you for Joe really wants to get this
So
Mike
is
Walker
it
going.
one of us or is it all of us? Is it Mark doing 4?
You know what? I said a random dummy, but I guess we'll see
Random
what
dummy.
happens.
All right.
We'll see what
Mark
happens.
used to be
Maybe
the guy
all of
that
us.
jumped on that grenade all the time.
Yeah, that's why you're good.
I'm not saying I won't drink it. It's whatever.
So we're in for a little bit of a
Excited.
exciting times, sad times. It's going to be an adventure.
I'm not worried
keep
about
your
it.
good whiskey.
But yeah, even if it goes down a little bit, that's all right. Things come and go. It's a cycle, guys.
But don't be afraid to open bottles.
Well, I just drinking this one is like bringing me back. Like my gosh,
I'm
guys,
almost done with this grain.
We had some good times in New York City drinking Opal 21. I mean, it's such a malt forward dram. Like, gosh, man, it's just in your face malt. You got to chew on it.
Where do we get
It's
that?
so good.
Jeff Timmy
Jeff
used
Timmy
that.
got
Yeah, that's a
For a
freaking single
grain,
too.
grain whiskey is amazing. The flavor is amazing.
And which,
It's
side
rich.
note, just if you guys, if you want to get old whiskey and can't afford those old single malts, get into some old single grains and you'll get some
Yes.
amazing whiskeys
Yep.
for half the cost.
Yeah,
Yep.
it literally
Or
is.
even back to your point of the early 1900s, like the blends back then were not the blends today.
well,
Because they were putting good single malts in.
Yeah, they had better older whiskey. They
Right.
had different grains. The barleys were different. Right now they're designed to produce more volume. Which
Mass production,
you
man.
get paid by the bushel, not by the pound. So that if you have a grain that's high volume but low mass, you win. So
They need to get back to paying people in booze.
Hey man, I'm down.
Like, which distillery was it that gave everybody like half a bottle every day?
Tamdu?
Was it Tamdu or no?
That's why they did the teapot dram, because people couldn't drink it
Yeah.
Here's the other
Yeah.
difference, guys. So in the 1800s, 1900s, mothballing and stuff, there wasn't a whole lot of really options and variety. We've got a ton of variety now.
Sure.
American single malts, the bourbon stuff. We got other things. So it's almost mass marketing, maybe too much of it, but I think we're going to be fine. I think there's lots of
Yeah.
options to go through for a while.
Yeah, I agree.
So
We'll be fine. You know what? Let's ask our patron. But we want to find out a little bit more about this patron. That's the whole point of the next segment, right? You know, I mean, so on Thursday nights, guys, on the lives and guys and gals, we want to bring our patrons on one at a time, get to know the patron. Hopefully, so the other patrons get to know them a little bit better and get everybody more involved in the patron community. We've got a pretty tight community, but I'll be honest with you. If I looked at how many patrons we have and how many that are really tight together, there's a disparage there. And our goal is to bring everybody into the circle because it's pretty cool once you're inside it. And the community is great. The larger community is awesome as well. I mean, there's a lot of people on the Discord and showing up on the chats. And that's what this is all about. This is really what it's always been about for us. And it's about you guys and gals and us. But at the same time, we got to find out ways to do it, and this is one way. And we're excited. We had Kim last week. I was excited to have her on. She's a great patron. She's been around a long time. Really good friend of the channel. And I'm excited about tonight.
I am too.
He brings the power, man.
We're going to bring him on in like just a second. But if there was echo, we had echo issues last week. Let me know as soon as you can in the chat. We'll try to.
Like now.
I will mute and do some things. We're working through some audio. But let's, without further ado, welcome our good friend Mark. Who do we have on the show tonight?
Without further ado. Did you say?
I did back then.
Yeah, it's time for a dram, otherwise known as Gregor.
There we go.
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
You're muted.
You're muted.
There we
Still
go.
muted?
How's it going, boys?
There you go.
Oh, really?
You did that on purpose, didn't you?
You're messing with
Oh
us.
my gosh, man. The Star
How's it
Wars
going?
freak. Welcome to the live show, Gregor. Thank you for taking the time to come on. You know, off camera, we've known you for quite a while. I love you. You're a ton of fun, but you're also a ton of whiskey knowledge.
Yeah.
You're actually from Scotland. So tell us a little bit about, you know, where you come from, where you are, what you do a little bit, you know, in your day-to-day daily job. But let's talk about the whiskey as well. So how are you?
Sure. Yeah. All good. As you can tell by the accent, originally from Scotland. And I think I left Scotland in 2006, so I was 26. And I would say even when I left, I wasn't a massive whiskey fan. I think mid-20s, too young. I was on other stuff. But there is the assumption because you're from Scotland that you can play the bagpipes and you drink Scotch. And there was no chance that I was going to learn how to play the bagpipes, so I figured I better start drinking Scotch. So I think when I moved away from Scotland to Germany to work at Adidas, and I think it was about halfway through that 10 years in Germany, did I start kind of trying to get into whiskey. Still didn't crack it. I was trying with, I think Glenmorangie was my gateway. I kept kind of like, I had one bottle on the shelf with everything else, and it took a long time to get through it. But towards the latter part of those 10 years in Germany, it started to get a bit more social, and a few more people started to do it and want to get into it. And then I moved to the States in 2015, and it was then that I realized, oh yeah, I'm into whiskey, and I kind of took it more seriously.
Where do we see the mute?
Bottom left there. Wow. So somebody else pointed out, aren't you like a famous podcaster or something?
What?
Tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, tell us that.
We're jumping around. We just jumped straight to the end of the journey. It is really kind of at the most recent part of the journey. Through getting really quite obsessed with whiskey actually. I happened across the whiskey tube, the whiskey sphere, right? I wanted to learn more. I'm not really a book reader. I'm more visual. So I went to the University of YouTube, and it was there that I discovered Probably two people. One is the first drink that I'm drinking. It would be, for those that know this little logo on this bottle. I discovered Aquavite, Roy Duff. I think it was through his pronunciation videos. So ironically, as you guys always rely on me on how to pronounce, my education was formed there. Um, but I started kind of learning from about whiskey from him, and fairly quickly after him, I discovered you guys, because I think that was also at a time where you were quite, the synergies were strong between you guys. I was very much into Glengoyne, which is why that's my second dram that I've poured.
Teapot.
I know, it's in the kill zone. But I discovered the love for Glengoyne and sherried whiskies. Like that was like, oh wow, this is amazing. Excuse me. And I think there was an exchange between Roy and you guys all around Glengoyne. I think he sent you 25, was it? 25 or 21?
I don't remember. I know
it was one of the two. It was one of the two. But the funny thing is Drew and I, we met Roy before. We met Aquavite before he was Aquavite. When he was Roy, and he wouldn't get on camera to save his life. We tried to get him on camera.
That was so funny.
He wanted nothing to do with it, and then maybe he was biding his time and he had a master plan at the time. But I mean, it obviously paid off. He's doing really well, and he is a wealth of knowledge. And I'm excited to see him successful over there. And I wish I had the distilleries and Scotch whiskey at my disposal that he does. But it's funny that he's the one that kind of you went to, and you're from Scotland and didn't even drink Scotch when you left. I mean,
no, it took a while. I remember there's a funny story with my dad. My dad was a big whiskey drinker. He spent time on Islay, so he was a Lafroig drinker, and he would every New Year try and make me drink Scotch. I say every year, but like he was like, Gregor, it's time for you to drink whiskey. Try this Lafroig.
You're damn right it is. It's time to grow up, son.
Drink this Lafroig. And I was just so turned off by the amount of peat. And he goes, all right, no worries. We'll add some water. That might help. And I said, Dad, you've just made more of it. You've just made more. Like, that's not a good thing. But it took a while. But I got obsessed with learning from Roy and yourselves, the test dummies as well, and it was definitely like a sponge period of like I need to learn more. And I also the beauty of YouTube is there is an ease to interact and kind of break I don't know if this is the fourth wall or not, but you can connect as humans. And I remember particularly with Roy, I was like, I'm going to see if I can get to know this guy. And then, little by little, I think it was round about the whole Game of Thrones releases, and we had it earlier in the US than the UK. I said to him, in the chat or whatever, I says, if you want any to try, even for content, I'll send you them. And we hit it off, and then, fast forward another year or so, I was back, and I said, let's meet up. So we met up, and I think a friendship was kind of growing, and from that, I would join his lives occasionally. I'm giving you the full backstory, the full boona. From there, you would often post call. You'd hang in the green room right after the call with whoever else was on the show or the thing, and chew the fat, as we say in Scotland, right? Shoot the shit. And I am quite an outgoing sort. I guess I am an extrovert. I'm talkative, and I thrive off of all of that. So quite often in the green rooms, I'd be quite interactive and kind of sparking conversation. And just as the type of manager I am now, I'm very conscious of involving everyone. So I would often kick the conversation around. And I remember watching Roy. I remember consciously seeing Roy kind of kick back and just sort of watch as the conversation was hosted ultimately by someone else. I think that was the moment he was like, Gregor might be a good host. And then fast forward, when he got Dramface going, I remember a text out of the blue, not out of the blue, but just a random text. He goes, have you ever thought about a podcast? And I was like, what are you saying? I've not got a face for the TV, like. But Aye, and then it kind of grew from there. And he said, let's have a go at it. And it's grown. I mean, we've been doing it, I think, 3 years now. And little by little, it's growing. I don't get behind the data and the numbers and all that, but that was a long story to get to. Yes,
Yeah, but
host a
you guys are
podcast.
doing a great job.
It's
I mean,
a good podcast.
it's a phenomenal podcast. I know you've even explored doing the video, which is great because it gives it a whole other fourth wall, if you will, of the podcast. Those are fun to do. But you got great people on there. It's always a good story. And you guys dig into some really good information. So you guys are doing a great job. It's very entertaining.
No, I appreciate that. It's fun. It is fun. I've said in the past or on many times, it's a funny one to host a conversation because you're half listening to the conversation, but you're also half, where do you want to take it, right? You're trying to steer it, or you've got a few points you want to get through. So it's finding that blend is an interesting one. So it's good fun. It is good fun. Life, I mean, I'm sure you guys know what it's like to try and get any regularity of time together in your with your lives and all that. So life does get in the way of regular recordings, but that just makes it sort of more special when stuff does come out, I think.
So, do you? I know you talked about not really getting into the peated Scotch initially. Did you get over your fear of peat? And if you had to create a Scotch, what's kind of your profile? What would you go to?
Yeah, that's a good one. I would say only in the last year have I started to enjoy peat. I'm still not necessarily reaching for any of my heavy hitters of a Thursday night or a Friday. There's still other stuff that are drawing me before that. But I would say a few whiskies, like discovering a few whiskies opened up peat to me, and I think they're fairly obvious ones, but they're the more mildly peated, right around the 30 ppm. So a Clinleash, to be honest, was fairly pivotal in opening up up peat to me, and Springbank. I think that's, for me, that's, to be honest, the perfect spot, the sweet spot of peat integration. And Highland Park, to be fair, Highland Park. I dabbled around in Highland Park for a while. Visited there, but I stood in the actual what do we call that? The kiln? No, the wherever the peat is coming through the malt. Stood in that, as black as tar inside there. But I think so.
You make trips over there regularly, don't you? Like every year?
I'm typically going back because my family are still there. My mum and dad and my sister are still there. A lot of my school friends. Which we've got a really good bond, my schoolmates and I, and whiskey's grown. It's infected us. I think there was one of my mates, Martin, who kind of said, right, I'm done with, this is way back, I'm done with beer. I'm only drinking whiskey. And I was like, oh,
that's a good man.
That's wrong with that.
So
as you get older, you need fewer calories, so it makes total sense that you would might as well drink it as whiskey.
Exactly. Aye. And I followed suit. Or focus a few years later, and then it just grew from there. And now all of us are whiskey lovers. There was one last one to join who was he was still drinking Southern Comfort way back, and we eventually converted him. But to the question of where would, and I like this question of where would you, what Scotch would you make? And I think Drew and my palates align quite heavily, and I think Mark as well. And you would probably expect me to say, oh, a big sherry bomb or whatever. But I have to say, as far as if it was to be my centre point of whiskey, or what would I would want all whiskey to taste like, it probably would be in the Clinleash realm. I think it delivers all that you need ultimately. I don't know if I'm becoming a Puritan like Roy of ex-bourbon.
Roy is definitely going there with that, yeah. So Gregor, if you have lots of whiskey experience, but your whiskey experience is the last, 5-7 years, is that right?
Yeah, I would say that I would say it was pre-COVID even. It was just before. So I think 2016 it started to get serious.
So what is your kind of the location and the experience of your most memorable dram? Something that was the clip?
I don't know if it was when it clicked, but it was just as an experience. There would be two I think I was pretty privileged. You're dragging it out. Well, I don't know where you're going.
It was in Texas with me.
No.
No.
Oh.
Shush it.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
No.
He was passed out. Never
Singing.
mind.
Absolutely. No, I would say it was when I visited either Tomatin or Rassie, and both times I was pretty privileged to be able to drink whiskey from a cask. In Tomatin, very, very, very old cask, a cask that was actually older than me. And then at Rassie to drink some stuff before it was technically whiskey, right? But it was mind blowing. So for me, like just being able to sit in a dunnage on the cask that's just been pulled, like opened, and drinking it, it's just phenomenal. And I know it's a pretty privileged position to be in, but that was the most memorable for sure.
Which one you want me to get?
Totally.
It's up to you.
Totally go. Yeah, I agree with you on that. That the experiences of drinking in a dunnage house is,
I'll go number 3.
yeah.
Well, hit it.
Wait, Andrew, what's your most memorable dram?
Uh-oh.
Ooh, look at you throwing it back on us.
I do have a couple of memories there, that, and they were, the last couple of years when I've been able to travel to Scotland, and it's funny because one is an experience I had never had before called the boot dram, where I was with Roy and some others, and one of Roy's guests had his trunk open, but his boot open, and there was a sample of whiskey, and he had some glasses, and we were sampling whiskey out of the boot of a car at the Deanston Distillery, and we weren't drinking Deanston, so it was
Scottish tailgating.
It was great, and it was just because again with whiskey, as Roy would say, whiskey's better when shared, and so just that experience of being there, and the other one I have is in Ushkaba in Edinburgh. It was there's a whiskey bar in Edinburgh that used to be an old market, and so they have an area underground that has these like coves in it, and you can sit in there, and it was one of the first scotches I've ever had with my son. So we were drinking whiskey in this fantastic whiskey bar in Edinburgh in these essentially little caves underneath the street level. And it's just a great experience because you're like, this is something I will always remember.
That's amazing.
Never forget that. Yeah,
That's cool.
Superb.
All right, Gregor, it's my turn for a question. And since you messed up a previous question and missed the obvious answer, I'll give you another opportunity. I'll throw a meatball all over the plate for you to hit out of the park. What's your favorite part of being part of the Scotch for Dummies community?
Mark Broder.
That's it. Boom.
Mark Broder.
All right.
That was an easy,
we can
easy
end the
question.
interview now.
And if you want to ask me the same kind of question back, I'll.
Say Mark Broda.
He'll also say Mark Broder.
No, it was my time with Gregor in in Texas. I got to be honest, everybody. Gregor and I met face to face for the first time when we were in Texas at I think it was the Bachelor's Ball or whatever. And I remember leaving Texas going, if I ever go to Scotland with that guy, I've got to take bail money because it's unstoppable. We're going to get in trouble. We're going to have fun, and just make sure I have cash on me because I don't know what they take in Scotland. But
I know, because we have flirted for quite a while about like it would be great if we were all four of you and I or enough of us in Scotland at the same time. So hopefully it can happen. And to be fair, I want to meet Sean because like I'm a big foodie, so to know that there's a chef within the team,
I don't know if it's. I don't know. Come fishing with us. I'll cook for you. How about that?
Right.
you can get to go
I
fishing.
mean,
and get the food.
pretty amazing food. You would be surprised.
Fried bologna? What?
No.
But maybe to seriously answer your question, the question was, what is it about the Dummies community or?
Yeah, I mean, what's your favorite part of being a part of the community that we've got here?
Well, I think it's intertwined to why I like you guys in the channel as well. I think for me, it's the approachability of you all. Like you're pretty. Well, you are what you present, right? You're approachable. You're just four mates ultimately, documenting the journey of discovering whiskey. So you're real people, which I like. I think it's the Scottish in me as well. We don't really suffer bullshit or false pretenses or any of that. So I would say, and Leanne often says, your vibe finds your tribe. You're definitely people of my vibe. Equally, then the community that are drawn to you all, there's a high chance we'll get along and we're good. So it's the same. It's the same for you guys as it is for Aquavite. But for sure, the tribe that you guys bring together are people who I would happily drink with.
Yeah, I mean, well said. I mean, and you're getting a lot of likes here when you're stuck. I mean, it's such an amazing, like everyone we meet, they have different personalities, but they're a lot like you and us. And it's just amazing. Just when you get together with people, you're like, oh, you're just exactly like me, and we're having a great time. You love whiskey as well, and it's
different
fun.
walks of life.
Well, and it's a humble community too, because you say, oh yeah, I'm just tasting whiskey, and then you put them on a blind, and they are like the best whiskey expert you've ever heard of, but they never say anything.
No.
I just like whiskey.
I don't know how to do this.
I don't know how to do this.
And you're
I
like,
can't taste anything. You're like, what?
And then you put them in a blind, and they're like, yeah, that's a 15-year-old single malt. There's a grain, or there's a blend. There's like probably 30% grain in there, and
54%.
You mean like Everwin?
I mean, it's like, pull this out.
Yeah.
Blows your
Oh my
mind.
gosh.
So Gregor, I got a question for you.
right.
Put you on the spot here. It's not anything we
All right.
talked about, but
Uh-oh.
when we think about our favorite drams of all time, right? And it's one of those questions we get loaded with all the time. What's your favorite
What's your
whiskey?
favorite whiskey?
What's your favorite whiskey? And I think anyone that's really into whiskey in general, but specifically Scotch, will say it depends on the mood, right? What am I feeling tonight, et cetera, right? But there is one bottle that I feel pretty confident about that I'm willing to put like gambling chips on that I think you will say that is right there with me. But I'm willing to let you have an honest take on this.
Walker?
Make him put the chips on the table.
And if you say it, I'm pulling it out.
Well, I don't have to say anything. Yeah. Yeah, Deanston 20 is up there for sure.
I'm empty. Pour.
Deanston 20 is incredible. And I'm trying to think now how this chronologically went. I had a bottle of 20 in my collection, so I knew it was good. What's that? The cork broken?
Of course the cork is broken.
I just
It's a
barely
Deanston
touched it. It's already
20.
been open.
Oh no!
Fucking Deanston
man.
20s. Ugh.
Do you have a cork?
I know they're renowned for
Can do
breaking.
this the best? Jeff Teamy.
What a
Yeah,
nightmare!
he's really good.
I can get that out.
But go, keep talking. We're gonna figure this out.
Aye. No, so I definitely had a Deanston 20 in my collection. I don't know if Roy or somebody's talked about it in the past. And then I can't remember. It might have been you guys talking about it. It might have been Drew talking about it. I was like, okay, it's time to open it. And when I did, I was just blown away. Just as far as sherry influence, it's phenomenal. So good. And it was, and I'm sure we've all got this moment as well. You're like, this is amazing. This also cannot be the last time that I have this. So I was very conscious. I only had one bottle. And I think, actually, it must have been you guys that opened it. And then I was like, you guys were talking about, oh, we found some. And in fact, that might even be the first time I was even reaching out direct to you guys. I was like, Drew, when you go to get some, I need one, at least one. I think you might even have been able to hook me up with two. It was just amazing stuff.
I remember hooking you up and shipping them, and I was thinking to myself at the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want these two. But I don't remember how we even got to that point. But I remember we were talking, and our love for that Deanston 20, and just to add on to your point, like I've had some amazing unique whiskeys, but this Deanston 20, I too I'm doing my best to find something to replace because you can't get it. It's gone. And even if you can find it, like there was an auction last week, and there was a bottle on there, and we were trying to get it, and I think it went for $250 on the auction. Like that's insane,
right?
Insane,
Sean,
right?
But Sean's reaction was,
Man, it's so good. It's so good. Now, Gregor,
Sean,
you know what the best part?
The original dram face.
The best part about the Deanston 20 is if the cork breaks when you're opening it, you have to kill the whole bottle.
That's not true. He's full of shit.
I'm game. I'm off.
No, let's do it. But
Name it, Drew. Drew, where would you, to your point, what's the closest to this?
so that's a great question. I've had there's a few. One particularly is one that Andrew brought back last year when he went there. I don't remember.
Was it the Oloroso?
I think it was some kind of Oloroso he had, but it was a unique one. There's what's neat about this bottle, and maybe you can help me describe it. It is an Oloroso, and most Olorosos to me are the more leathery kind of black tea and some sherryness, and obviously, but it has this funk that some people maybe think it's off-putting, but it's like a sulfur meets. I say gym shoe, but it doesn't sound great. But that combination with what it has, and I will equate it to my favorite saying of growing up in an English household of burnt toast. It's that whole charring something with it.
It's there,
and it's just a combination that just sings like the gates are opening up, and I'm like, whoa. And so I found a few other bottles that are similar, particularly that Deanston one you had. There's a Mortlock we had many years ago, the 15.
Got a little bit to it.
It has a little bit to it.
But nothing is as pungent.
You just bought one.
I had a 15. So Michael Porter set me up on Deanston 15s. I got from some UK place, and they ship really quick, by the way. So I have two of them. I'll share them with you guys. Great bottle. Really nice sherry finish. I've only had one dram. It has a tiny bit of funk, but nowhere near what this 20 has.
Okay.
And I mean, the burnt toast is a good one. It's burnt. What's great about this and anything else that's close to it, it's not overdone. Okay, it's burnt, but then you've scraped it off. You've scraped the toast, right? So you've scraped off the black, but the hint of the char is still there, but it's not overdone. You can have some sherry ones that are just way too much.
And you get a little bit of melted butter on there on top of it as well. I mean,
honestly,
right? And it's soft. The palate's soft, and you get this, and then you take a little sherry afterwards. You're kind of a little sherry, like, oh, it's perfect.
It's and I get into it. Sometimes I get into this with other like whiskey needs, like Roy as well, right? Like we're mates enough that we can disagree. We're like, it's too much, it's too sherried, it's taken over, and I'm like, or it's not whiskey anymore. I'm like, whatever it is, it's phenomenal. Like whatever you want to call it, it's amazing. I know it is.
I've gone through similar. I'm a sherry bomber. I love peat, but I love the sherry bombs too. And there are some that I'll admit I'll agree with and be like, yeah, this thing's over sherried, but I freaking love it. You know what I mean? It's so good, but it is over sherry.
And see that's the interesting thing is, this is a good whiskey, but I don't like it enough to take it away from him. So when he had this out here, I'm not going to pour it because I don't appreciate it like him, and it's a rare commodity. So I'm not going to take it from him because I don't like it like he does and like these guys do. So
here's the thing, Andrew. You can have all my share of the heavy peated stuff. How about that?
That would be great.
Now Andrew will take it from him.
So I went over and poured the Keanu.
Oh, sure you did. You had to show me up.
I love this. This is more of my favorite than that, and this one you can actually buy. It is still.
Can I bounce it back? I guess you guys, you might have answered this quite a few times, but it's been a minute. Has it been a minute since you all have done your sort of end of year? That's been a hot minute since you've done your end of year roundup. Remember those videos?
Yeah, that's been a while. Those are harder to do because. So a couple things to that is just timing of everything, but we haven't done. We used to do a shit ton of reviews. A lot. Like we
every week.
Every week. 2 3 and we're getting back into it more than we have been for a while. Things are just evolving, but
it is interesting. We've done some every year, at least some way. This year, I think we will get back into like a top 10 or top 5 because we're reviewing a lot more. But here's the thing. How much American single malt have you had? Because that's where we're also getting into.
Right.
Sure. No, totally. And I'm on board with that. The only reason I was asking about the 20 or the end of year, I want to know each of yours just quickly. So you're like, my question is like, all right, what whiskey are you pouring on Christmas Day? Or to your point, like, what's your the ultimate or whatever? But what's that bottle that you save for Christmas Day or your birthday?
So what's our? Obviously, I'm decent 20. So
yeah, I'm King Alexander if I got it. Otherwise, I'll pull a SIWS peated and just savor it because that goes great by the fire because you get the little smokiness to it, and then the smokiness of the room helps. So that's what I do.
I opened that bottle of Imperial.
Oh,
and it was fire.
Yeah, it was good.
I don't generally save like a special whiskey necessarily for Christmas. A lot of times I'll have people that give me a bottle, and so I'll try new things. That anybody who buys me a bottle knows not to go buy like something pedestrian. Like they're going to a distillery to get like a distillery release or some kind of weird finish because I just want to try new things. So I'll drink that a lot on Christmas.
To get away from Christmas, the 2024 bottles for me, there were probably 2. I snagged a Lefroy 25 from Costco for what was it, $2.99?
yeah.
You stole it for
I
sure.
mean, I freaking stole it from him. I really felt guilty, like I had to run out of the store. And I shared the shit out of that bottle. But I think one of my favorite bottles of 2024 was a Blair Athol 23. We had tasted this bottle years ago at a Vine and Table event. Some guy brought it out from under the table, and he wanted like $550 for it. And back, we were like, "Are you crazy?" But I have a good friend that I served in the military with, and it was my birthday, and he's like, I was visiting him in Vegas, and he said, "Come on, man." And we went out driving around, we got gas, whatever, and then we pulled in the liquor store. I'm like, "What are we doing?" He's like, "Getting you a birthday bottle." And I was like, "We are?" He's like, "Yeah, man, anything you want in there." And I was like, "You done fucked up, AA." So we walked in there.
Who do you think I am, Andrew?
Right, and they had a really good selection, and I saw that Blair Athol, and I was like, man, this thing's come back to me. It's been like 6 or 7 years. I remember it. That's what I want. And so I did, and that one really struck home for me in 2024. I've shared a couple drams of it, and I've got a lot of it left yet, because it's not something I'll just drink on my own, but a Blue Moon. And I definitely gave one to Drew. He's a Blair Athol fanboy. But nice. I think those are the kind of bottles I save back for special times. And I'm not saying Christmas just, but there are bottles that I have that I won't drink alone. There's one that a patron that's on the chat right now that Tom R gave me, and I won't drink it by myself. I will only drink it when I share it with somebody that I know will appreciate it, just because that's why it was given to me. And so there's a lot of those. But good question, Gregor.
As you mentioned the Lefroy 25, I was just at a Lefroy tasting a couple of nights ago. Here's a hot take or hot news. The 25 is going away and won't come back. So if you are
that's
we gotta find some more
because they don't have any, or is that they're going to bump up to 30.
Of course they are.
And charge you an extra $500.
We talked about that. That was the point of tonight's discussion.
So the 25 is going away, and did he say how much it was going to be? Silly money. So
right,
there you go.
Well, Gregor, we got to move on, but would you mind joining us for some trivia?
Sure. This will be when you find out I'm full of shit and don't know shit.
I mean, you are a dram face expert, so you should know all.
Bring
this,
your
right?
A game, brother.
No. I just speak. I speak to the experts. Speak to the experts. I know nothing.
If you spent any time on Roy's quizzes,
you'll be fine.
You should be fine. Yeah.
Tom, I see your comment. Love you, brother.
Yep.
Well, let's get the trivia going here. So, name this Scotch distillery is the trivia name tonight. But tonight we're going to feature, guess what? Closed distilleries.
Let's call TV timeout. Drew wanted us to freaking make sure this was a tight freaking, and we all reviewed it. And I was like, Yeah, things look good, but it's hard as shit.
It is really hard.
I can't verify
real.
your answers, dude.
I hope that freaking Google was right with your answer.
I researched them, so
I knew 3.
This
think,
is hard.
when I went through it.
So does that mean 3 is the pass mark?
Yes.
yeah, 3 is the pass bar. That's
Yeah.
right.
It's C.
Solid.
The answer is C.
Solid.
Yeah. You might be better off just doing C straight through.
Yeah, I don't know.
You guys appreciate the Scotch Distillery in the background?
I do.
Look at
I was
that.
looking to see if like our faces were
looks
in the
legit
window
to
or
me.
something.
Did you
AI
AI
can do a
that?
lot of stuff.
Yeah,
All right,
exactly.
so let's get to the first question, get going. I'm not going to talk about these, so you guys figure it out yourselves. But who's going to go
I'll
first?
go for it. Oh, Sean, go for it.
All right. No discounts for mispronunciations, right?
Nope.
Which now closed distillery was granted a royal warrant and carried royal in its name. What is that? Glenurry,
Glenurry, yeah.
Glenlochy, Banff, and Milburn.
So there are a few like royal warrants there have been.
like saying bam.
Oh,
Bam. Bam.
I don't know. Knock it off. There have been a few royal warrants.
there have.
That's been
Yeah.
Glenlivet. Not Glenlivet. There's a few. Actually, was it Glenlivet?
Royal Brockla.
Yeah, Royal Brockla.
There
Yeah.
are a few that's why this question I got thrown off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a few, but it's amongst these, not
Right.
all
Out of those 4,
That's right.
which
Right.
one of the 4?
So we got people coming in. Gregor, do you have a guess on this one?
I'm gonna go with D, Milburn.
You're gonna go Milburn. Okay.
So looks like the chat is liking Melbourne as well.
We got some D's coming in. Lots of D's coming in so far. So let's see what the answer is.
Everybody's
here.
following Scott or Gregor because he's Scottish. Gregor, you got to live up.
Hey.
Glenurry.
Oh, snap.
There you go.
Oh.
And there's a little bit of I put a little bit of actual research in this. and put some answers to
Yeah,
it.
Right.
just so we don't get as much
In,
shit on the
in
count.
1835, he convinced the king William IV to grant him a royal warrant and regain the right. So it would become then what?
Robert Allardyce. Imagine that.
Yep.
What?
Glendronach.
Who's Robert Allardyce? I don't know.
Drew, do
Good
you know what
on
I just
him.
learned? I just
That's
learned.
right. We
don't
learned it last
follow-
week.
Don't,
That's
I just
right.
learned don't follow the crowd. I'm not listening to the crowd at
That's
all.
Salute to Her
right.
Majesty.
All right. Next question.
Which of these distilleries was famous for its triple distillation method? Rosebank, Port Ellen, Little Mill, or Brora? They were triple distillation. Were they Irish?
Little known fact, I knew this one.
Did you really?
What are they?
Because you like those freaking mothball distilleries. That's why.
But these are Scotch, so they can't be triple distilled.
Oh, they can.
Oh, they can be.
No, you can't.
No.
There
you
are
can't.
some, Mr.
Some are
Dr. Scotch.
2.83 distilled.
Yeah.
What was
Well-
that, Gregor?
Hazelburn's triple distilled, right?
That's right. It is.
It is.
That's right. So what's your guess, Sir Gregor?
I'm stalling.
There's a lot of
Let's go.
A's.
Let's go.
Everybody's Googling
Let's go
it.
A. I'll
You're
say
gonna go A?
that's fine.
Are you still drinking that Deanston 20?
I finished the first pour and I'm now on to a second.
Boy.
But
Why not?
boy.
if you look, he's not really drinking it. He just knows it.
I mean, I've nosed
There's
this for 20
nothing wrong
minutes.
with
I
that.
mean-
He knows that shit.
It's a good nosing one. You know what? Here's something that I hit earlier as far as flavor on the nose. It tastes like a really sugary butterscotch, like a really nice full flavored butterscotch in the nose.
Almost English
So good.
coffee.
that
Almost English
funk
coffee.
is a little much.
You know that freaking score bar?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love
Oh
scores.
yeah, for sure.
All right, here we go.
Coffee and all in.
The answer is
Yeah.
Rosebank.
Non-peated triple distilled lowland single malt.
It's low.
That's about to be
It's
back.
considered to be one of the finest lowland single malts.
Coming home. All right.
Yeah, oh, it does have
Interesting
that
if they
fall
then
style.
if they do triple distilled again. That's going to be very interesting.
Yeah,
There's not
it would be, yeah.
Question 3. Which closed distillery was permanently lost due to a fire in 2004? Little Mill, Dallas Dew, Banff, or Inverleven?
And if you were paying attention during tonight's
right.
talk, you can mark one of those off your list.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, maybe 2 of them, but let's go and see what people are thinking here.
I still like saying Banff.
Banff.
That's
Banff.
one of my favorite
It
words.
sounds like a.
There's a
an animal
Banff.
from
There's a
Star
Banff in
Wars.
Canada, right? There's Banff in Canada.
Oh, we don't talk about Canadian whiskey on this show.
No,
Oh, it's not.
we've had bad experiences with Canadian whiskey.
Wait, he has.
Mark,
Same
you love
Hager
Crown
concert.
Royal Apple. You're a Crown Royal Apple guy.
I blame everything on Canada, Gregor, not just the bad whiskey.
We got a lot of C's so far.
Bunch of A's. There's an A.
Yeah. What do you think, Gregor?
B, D, it's all over.
I'm going to say B, Dallas do.
Dallas D.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what the answer is.
It is
Yeah.
Inverleven.
Never even heard of Inverleven.
That's because it burned down.
That's right. Actually, it had multiple fires, guys.
52,
Duh.
2004. So were they distilling in 2004 when there was a fire, or was it just like an arson thing?
No, they used it as a freaking test for the fire department to put out.
Bonus,
Wait. Oh, that's it.
bonus question. Who bought the stills once it was done?
So I guess it didn't burn out completely.
That's right. You want to take a guess? Well, you guys already know the answer, don't you?
I didn't even actually look at the bonus question.
I thought I saw this later. But I might
Don't
saw
say
it.
it then. You guys want to take a
You
guess?
Look at the comments. I want to see if
You would
anybody's taking
never
a guess.
guess. You would never guess.
We'll have to wait for a delay to catch up. But Gregor, do you have a guess on this?
Who bought it? No.
Who bought the stills?
In 2004, so they bought new stills in 2004.
No.
And then they bought the old
They
stills.
bought the stills from the
fire.
burnt down.
Yeah, so the stills lived through the fire.
Yeah,
They
so
bought stills.
a distillery that was already producing bought new
I was
stills
looking for some smoky whiskey.
that weren't their own. So that's interesting.
It was tainted.
And we love it, baby.
Let's see if it scrolls up now.
I haven't got anybody talking. Oh, here we go.
Glendronach. Wow.
Rosebank.
Here, Mark. Oh, when did Glendronach reopen?
That's a good guess.
They were in the 90s, weren't they?
It's a good guess. In order to keep time going, it was
Brookline.
Buddy.
Oh, shoit.
Really?
yes.
See, that's what's so weird is they were already making
Yeah,
whiskey.
dude, they've been
So
making
they
whiskey for a
added
long
new
time.
They added
stills
the
to
stills
their.
from, yeah. I mean, hell, it's good stills.
used
Bring them over.
stills.
That's weird.
Sean?
Interesting. Which legendary Isla distillery closed in 1983 is set to reopen in 2024? I did get this one right. Thank you very much.
I know you did.
So,
Iowa. That's a tough one.
A. Brora, B. Port Ellen, C. Glenurry Royal, and D. Rosebank.
did you notice Glenurry has Royal now? Before it did not.
I
Did
did
you
see
say
that.
C? Sean guessed C.
I did guess that.
Because Glenurry was on Iowa.
Well, if you were paying attention earlier, you can rule out a couple of these.
Yeah.
Yep. Gregor, what do you think?
It would be Port Ellen, right?
That's my thought.
That would be a good guess.
I mean, that's what the consensus is here in the
Yeah,
chat.
that's
Except
what
for
we're
Tom
saying.
R. Except for the wrong guy. He likes.
Hey.
Port Ellen is correct, yes.
Yeah.
I'm on
After
2.
40 years of closure and a turbulent past, Port Ellen reopened March of 2024.
That's right, last year.
Excited
I
about
could share a
that.
nugget.
I don't know about
I could
you,
share a
but I-
nugget. Well, you might have to wait a little bit longer. I was again,
Yeah.
same
So the
with
question
Roy-
is,
same
are
with Roy.
these?
the
do we
the
know, are
company
these new
that's building it
distilleries-
went bust.
Are they selling their new make,
I doubt it.
I doubt it.
the White Spirit?
Well, and there's another, side question to this topic. Just because they opened it back up, who bought the Port Ellen casks when it was mothballed? Do they still own them, and do the new owners that are now distilling own those casks?
It's the same
Yeah.
people.
Everything's the same. So the people who are distilling now own the old casks too.
Yeah.
Okay, this is
I
curiosity.
want to say it's Diageo.
I think it
but
is.
but like
Probably is.
you when you bought
Right.
the old
brand.
distillery area, you bought the
Right.
rights to the name and everything else.
All right, question 5. The distillery was closed for good in 1983 due to a drought that dried up the water supply. What? Moffat, Dallas Dehu, Pity Vaish, maybe? And Lady
Vic,
Vic.
Petty Vic.
Pitty Vake. Or Ladyburn.
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 I had some Pity Vake in one of the Ghost and Rare bottles.
Well,
That was the one that we had.
At your bar.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Everyone's 3 for 4 so
Pretty good.
far. Joe's 2 for 4. What
Oh,
are you at, Gregor?
surprised that everyone's
2. I've got one more to pass.
What do you got in this
Today?
one?
Drought. Let's say
83.
Petty Vic. Nah, I'm not going to say Petty Vic. Let's say Ladyburn.
Ladyburn.
Ladyburn,
Okay. We got a lot of D's agreeing with you.
Yeah.
This
gonna
one
go
was
with
tough.
Dallas D.
D.
I just like saying it.
D.
I think you might
Dallas
be
I
right.
think you are right.
The answer is Dallas.
Boo!
Yeah.
It was an unreliable water supply.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry. I'm like 1 for 5. So it's not like I'm
1983
pushing
was the
anybody.
last.
And I can tell you, having had several bottles of their stuff, it is excellent.
So good, right?
Sean is a big fan of the DD.
Because
Yeah.
they're
Who
scraping
did we
the
get
end
that
of
one from? Who? Somebody sent it to us?
I think I scored it on an auction or some shit.
it was
bought a
one of
bar.
your-
I bought one. I've bought 2 so far.
Dallas,
The
dude.
first one I brought to Sean's bar, and he fell in love with it like it was his first love. And I'm
Yep.
like, oh, Sean's a Dallas Dew lover. I mean, we all are a lover of something. You
You're up
know?
next.
Question 6. What major event led to the closure of Brora in 1983? Did a fire destroy its warehouses? A drop in demand for heavily peated Highland whiskey? Contamination of its water sources, or a merger with Glenmorangie Distillery?
I think these answers are pretty interesting.
I like
Tom's
it.
1 for 5. Martin's 4 for 5. Martin's 4 for 5. Holy
Martin's
shit.
four-
Dang.
Martin's cheating, man.
He is cheating.
Man, Martin, come on, man. Come on, man.
It's the honor system, but come
He
on.
didn't even join until question 3.
He was coming in late after it was answered.
That's right.
Well, that's the thing. If you come in late, you take credit for all the ones that already happened.
Well, we got B, A, D. What you got, Gregor?
The demand, B.
You're going to go B?
You'll be all right.
Okay.
That was what I chose as well.
Yeah. We can go ahead and get going because
Because it's, you know,
timing.
it's
Yeah,
the
we gotta
80s,
get moving,
right?
man.
We're talking about
I said
mothballing.
drop in demand.
Demand. It's why you close.
So
That's
in
right.
83, there was a drop in demand. I wouldn't have even guessed there was a demand for heavily peated whiskey in 83, let alone a drop in one.
So the question is, I mean, they weren't making single malts at the time. Was it like essentially Johnny Walker said, "I don't need peated now"?
Well, they were making.
well,
They weren't
Klein Leach.
bottling single malts.
Well, yeah, they weren't bottling me as single malts, so
Well, it says
Yeah,
right there.
I mean,
they shifted to lighter, less peat styles at the nearby
Fine.
Klein Leach Distillery, which feeds who?
Johnny Walker.
That's right.
okay.
All right. Who's
But
up?
then everybody was missing Brora. You know what I'm saying? What was the original purpose of the Millburn Distillery buildings before it became a whiskey distillery? A flour mill, a hotel, a textile factory, or a brewery?
And they forgot to put E, a whorehouse, but obviously it's not.
What?
It's
Wow.
what it was.
Yeah, when I think the name
Mark, put the
Millburn,
whiskey
I
down.
think
Put the whiskey
whorehouse.
down, Mark.
I'm just saying, you guys, Google's not always right.
It's not Google.
Okay. What do we got here?
ChatGPT.
Everybody's saying.
No, deep sea.
Yeah, it's
He's
deep sea.
using deep sea.
It's not
Much
DC.
cheaper.
That's it.
Not the cost.
Damn it. What do you got, Gregor? What do you got, Martin? Are you 4 for 5?
No, I've got 3 now. So let's go for
3 for
8,
7?
Flour mill.
3 for 6. You're on 7.
He's
You're
going flour mill.
I
Okay.
definitely missed this one.
Everyone's saying A.
I didn't have this one.
Well, if you paid attention earlier in my conversation, I actually mentioned
You
it.
gave it away.
I kind of did.
Cheater.
The
I
Millburn
did.
Distillery were farm distillery and a flour mill. That you're saying the farm distillery again?
I think it's
Yeah.
actually a restaurant now.
But everybody knows what they did in flour mills. It was is E.
What?
Whorehouse.
Whatever.
Drew, take his whiskey away.
That's right.
Yeah,
Give me your
Sean.
decent 20.
Nope, it's all gone.
Who's up? You?
Oh, Maya. Which closed distillery was bombed by the German Luftwaffe in World War II? Glen Albin, Banff, we gotta go
You got
Banff,
Banff.
Colburn, or Kinclaith?
Did we say that right, Gregor?
King
Kinclaith?
Kinclaith?
Kinclaith.
Clay.
So
To be honest, I feel like there's quite a few who probably were bombed, but out of these 4,
Well,
was gonna say,
why
all
would they
of them?
bomb
A lot
a
of them.
distillery? Just because
just
about-
in the way.
getting the morale of the people.
Make people sad.
so
Yeah.
you gotta do the ones that were.
They were probably mad about it. Like,
Also,
oh, shit.
Also, what a shower of shite bags bombing a distillery. Distilleries were in the middle
Right?
of nowhere. Like, why are
Yes.
you bombing?
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's got to be a lowland. Whichever one of these is a lowland. They're not going to go up to
That's
the
a
highlands. to
great
bomb it,
point,
so-
Andrew. You said that.
Good.
Not going out of their way to bomb a distillery.
In Speyside.
It's like I missed primary target. Let's get to secondary.
definitely not
military
Brora.
advantage to
Andrew,
bombing a
Andrew,
distillery.
Rumor is they were targeting peated distilleries.
That
Oh.
was 83, right?
What's your answer, Gregor?
I'll go A. Glen
You
Albin.
go A. All right, let's see. Let's see if you're right.
Banff.
Bam! Finally, bam!
Finally, Andrew feels vindicated. I was going to tell him it really wasn't a distillery. He didn't
Yeah.
break his heart.
Warehouse, secret damage.
I think the interesting thing, the animals got intoxicated by the spilled whiskey that ran into the nearby water sources.
I like that.
That happens every time.
Moo!
Remember when the Rick House collapsed in Kentucky and like
Yeah.
dumped
Everything.
whiskey,
A million
Yeah.
gallons.
dumped whiskey into the local creek?
Right.
Like, ooh.
All right. Caperdonic was originally built as a sister distillery to which famous Speyside distillery?
Oh, I used to know.
Glenfiddich, Glenlivet, Macallan, or Aberlour?
This is actually a really interesting question because I researched it and it was like, it could be two, but if you really read the question correctly, there's only one answer for it.
Built as a sister distillery. So it doesn't necessarily need to be next door, but it was like built at the same time.
It's actually,
And
to be fair, it's
it-
actually a little bit of a switcheroo.
So it's not a Speyside distillery. The sister distillery that it was built to is Speyside. So this could be anywhere in Scotland, is what he's saying.
Caperdonic could be a Highland, it could be a Lowland.
I'm
could
not
be,
saying so much that. It's just one of those things where it's
help
like,
people read the
oh.
question. This is a trickaroo. It's a 1-2.
What do you got, Gregor?
I'm stalling as well. I'll say Aberlour.
Aberlour, okay. Let's see. I want to see the answer to this one, and so you guys can talk about it.
That's what I thought it was.
Glenlivet.
Yep.
And
So it's opposite.
So the interesting thing was
Surprised it
technically.
needed one. I'm surprised it needed one.
So here's the interesting fact about it. It actually was really originally named Glen Grant II, which is a boring name. However, in 5 years operation, it closed. It didn't do very well, and they decided, you know what, we don't want it. And Glenlivet Distilleries bought it. So, and they renamed it to Caperdonic. So technically, it's the Glenlivet, even though it was originally Glen Grant.
But isn't
But it wasn't
Caperdonic single grain?
I don't know, actually.
Maybe I'm screwed up there. This is a good history one for me. I want to read more up on this one just to understand the distilleries. I mean, I think it's cool. But just for a fair warning, on question 10, Gregor, if you're going to stall, you have to be playing the bagpipes, which you said you can't do, so no stalling.
Let me.
Sean,
I'll
bring
just,
some.
All
I'll
right.
just grab my bag.
All right. Question 10. What was the primary reason behind Imperial Distillery's closure in
perfect
1988? A major fire destroyed the stills, a lack of demand for its whiskey, it was converted into a museum, or it was merged with another distillery. Or E, I didn't know about it yet, so I couldn't buy it. It's mainly E.
1998. Yeah, we weren't as cash rich in 1998 as we might be now.
No.
What you thinking, Gregor?
Converted into a museum, merged into another distillery. I might say fire. I'm going to say A.
You're gonna say A. Okay.
Not a bad guess, dude. If you look at the histories and the annals of Scotch distilleries,
Lots of fire. It's a fire or a downturn. That's
It was
it.
either A or B.
Right.
It was a fire because it's a flammable.
they all caught fire.
All right. Let's see what the answer is.
Oh, like
Lack of
Lack of
demand.
demand.
Their biggest issue? Timing. The timing was not right for them.
Yep.
They missed the boat.
Which this distillery makes me worried about some of these new distilleries that are starting to open up right now because they're opening up just in time for a downturn, and that's what happened to Imperial.
So like the Port Ellen, the Rosebank, the Ardnamurchan has established himself enough, but there are some others. There's several others that are scheduled to open in 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
All
right.
Sean, I said the same in the chat. I was like, for me, the ones or the businesses that should be concerned right now are the ones that were based on a short-term strategy. So anyone that was looking to try and sell their stuff now, like rely on that revenue, that's the ones that are going to worry or struggle.
A
Others will be
long-term
fine.
game for sure.
Yeah. Well, so we had some 4 out of 10s, 6 out of 10s, 7 out of 10s.
Justin
Justin,
Boyer, oh,
killing it.
man.
That dude's a Wikipedia of Scotch and whiskey.
Yep.
What'd you get? 4?
4, so I passed, right?
You passed.
Yep.
You passed.
You passed.
40% is
Yeah.
passing.
We have a hard curve, man.
He's drinking decent 20. He already passes.
He
no matter
passed.
what.
Interestingly enough, Justin Boyer, I think, scored the highest. We need to look back, but he's the newest patron, I believe. So that's kind of cool because the whole point Gregor, is to introduce you to our other patrons. You know a lot of them. You're involved with a lot of them. You interact with a lot of them. We interact on multiple fronts. But our goal is to let the new patrons and the patrons that aren't interacting as much, let them know what else is out there. So I'm really stoked that you came on the show tonight and you shared some of your story. You know I love you, brother.
Absolutely.
Can't wait to continue to drink whiskey. And I hope and pray that someday we get to freaking do it in Scotland. And yes, I'll have bail money. But
For both of you?
well, I don't know if I can.
That's what I heard.
He doesn't need bail money. He's local, man. He gets out.
They're just going to let him off. Like, okay.
Or you're guilty by association with him.
That's fine. I'll go to jail with that dude.
No, you blame the American for inciting issues.
He didn't know any better.
But thanks for coming on tonight, Gregor. You know, obviously, we really enjoy you as a part of the community and the greater community, not just the Scotch for Dummies, but the whiskey community, the Scotch community. You know, you're involved. Your podcast. You're hitting it, and you're a really big part of it. So thanks for coming on tonight, and hope to drink another dram with you soon, guys. That's my closing statement.
Yeah, give us a plug for what's going on with you, Gregor.
A plug? Oh no, just click on Dramface, read a review, and check out the podcast. Cheers, Mark. I echo all your sentiments. It has been a couple of years now since we've been in person, so maybe not before too long. And it sounds like, Sean, maybe a wee fishing trip might be in order. I've never done that, so that might be one.
Oh, well,
I have no idea.
We can make that happen probably.
I think it should happen.
I like the idea. You know, this is our 10-year anniversary this year, so we might have to make that fishing trip happen. Might be a big ass fishing trip, but we'll make it happen.
We're gonna take everyone.
If we gotta bring it to you, I swear to God, Gregor, you've incited or instigated a few things.
Yes, you have.
And then not shown.
That's right.
And then
You're
not
on
been
the
there.
freaking
I
chopping
know.
block.
You did do that.
Aye.
Oh my
Aye.
gosh.
Well, if I get to sample Sean's cooking, I'll make the effort to go fishing.
All right, that's fair.
Fair enough, brother. Well, we'll raise a glass to you, and we'll see you on the after show here soon. But
Thanks,
love you,
brothers.
buddy. Thanks
Cheers,
for being on
man.
the show.
Cheers
Thank
all.
you.
See y'all.
Cheers.
Wow, that was awesome.
What do I want to drink?
Wow.
That's our patrons, man. I
love it.
I love it, love it, love it.
Absolutely.
So, you still have another trick up
I
the sleeve,
do.
man.
I do. Let me get it set up for a sec. Give me just a second to get it ready.
What are we spinning for?
We got to do our spit. You know, we got to figure out where we're going to pour, though, boys.
So before we spin it, let's talk about. So we did a spin last week,
Yep.
and Andrew, I just want you to catch us up.
I've poured the samples. They've not been sent. My fault.
but they're going to
They're
get
out
sent.
this week. Yeah, they're already poured, ready
Yep.
to go.
And I have updated the Patreon wheel with the correct amount of people. So Joe Whiskey and Justin and everyone else, I got you. I got you.
So do you want to do one of the canvas? What else do you want to do?
I think we should. This is
Really good.
whiskey. I mean, none of us have this. This is not something that
Nobody has a 30-year-old
99.9% right.
And it's
Jeff
delicious.
Teamy's the only one that's got this.
You know what else
shit,
I'm
and
gonna
that's where
pour?
it came from. This is incredible.
Three?
No,
Single
I'll pour this.
grain whiskey. You want to be introduced
Oh
to it?
yeah, that's good.
I want to pour that to
Yes,
somebody.
the milk and honey. Absolutely.
So we did a
Need a
review
cork.
on this. We didn't talk
You have
about it
to-
tonight, but this is
Told you we're gonna have to kill it.
No.
Israeli whiskey. It's young, but it's really good. It's got a lot of meat. It's a meat and potatoes kind of whiskey. Heavy body, great whiskey. So we can pour that tonight. And what else can we pour?
How many are we doing?
We do 3? Grab one more.
I
We can do
said
2 or
three.
3, either way.
Do something crazy and crazy. That
But like
we
the
know they
Caden
don't have-
heads.
That Caden heads. Yeah,
There you
I
go.
was. Nobody's got it.
Right.
I mean,
It's a Caden Heads cast strength distilled at Glenlivet Distillery, 24-year-old Speyside.
which there's.
53% ABV.
If you know anything about Caden Heads and their bottling, there's actually a lot of Glenlivet distilleries that are out there, and you got to go back into history to find out why
Everybody was a
that
Glenlivet.
is. But this is a Glenkeith, so it's a 24-year-old, and Caden Heads is a great independent bottler. You're gonna really be.
We'll do the,
So which order do you want to do it
so
in?
we'll do the
Eeny, meeny, miny, go.
30-year-old first. We'll do the 24 second, and then we'll do the milk and honey.
All right, patrons, let's see who wins tonight. The first one.
Piece of paper.
Let's go. We got a pencil right there. Drew, we need.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
Joe gets Joe. You got the
Man.
the canvas, baby. Joe got the 30-year-old canvas, and Joe is local. I think he's pretty close.
He's down south somewhere.
He came to the six years, so I mean he's within driving distance. So Joe, this should be quick.
Absolutely.
You awesome, man.
Congratulations.
He's gonna love the hell out of this.
All right, next one's up is the Cadenheads. Is that what we're doing?
Yep.
24-year-old. Let's see who wins this one. Oh, is it going to be Steve A?
Looks
I
like
think
it
that guy
is.
needs more whiskey.
Yeah, that
but
guy
you know
needs
what?
it.
That's a
He'll
good one to
enjoy
give
this
him.
He
shit
will
out of
enjoy it.
Yes, because Steve is an eclectic when it comes to Scotch and whiskey all in general.
Yeah.
Dude's got
So-
a ton of whiskey.
This next bottle, we actually just did a review on this one. No, that's the SDR.
Not that one.
That's the
Oh,
SDR.
this is the
cast.
Oh,
STR
no, we
one.
should
Yeah.
do the dead.
You want to do
Where's
the
Dead
Dead
Sea?
Sea one?
I don't know where it's
Yeah,
at.
we just did a review of it.
Where'd
we put
it go, boys?
I thought it was over there.
No, it's right here. It's handy, and we just did a review of it. Hello.
The Dead Sea bottle, boys.
There you go.
You got it?
No, that was the one
No,
you just
that's-
put down.
Yep.
What is happening?
Memories!
Do we put it on the wall over there?
I don't know where it's at.
No,
So it's
All right.
Milk and Honey Dead Sea. I know we've got it here.
It's okay. It's
We literally just recorded a review of it tonight.
it did really, really well. It's
Yep.
an Israeli bottling, single malt. It's phenomenal. We'll get it out for you. But anyway,
I know
Aged
that.
next to the Dead Sea.
let's see who wins. It's fine. We got it.
Oh.
Dave! All right.
Professor Dave is getting a dram.
This would be a
You know
fun one
what?
for
It's
him.
interesting. I have a sample poured at my house of an old Edwardauer that I poured for him 6 months ago. I just never got to him. It's going in that box.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So, Dave,
All right.
you got a sample of some Milk and Honey, and I'm excited for it. He's really a good patron too. He's got a great palate, a great perspective on reviewing whiskey.
He's very active, very engaged, yeah.
very engaged. I'm sure he will be on our patron get to know you segments here in the future. But
We have a lot of opportunities for patrons to join. We're going to get to know everybody. If you're not a patron, you guys are missing out. I mean, yes, it helps support our channel and do lots of things, but you're missing out on the community aspect of it because
And access to
it's so
bottles.
tight. Access to bottles. We have
We
a
do
call.
have
We have
a
a
lot.
call tomorrow with our bottler that hopefully is coming out very, very soon for an amazing
We've
bottle.
been working on it for months, but
Yes, it's coming out. But guys, what else is coming up? What's next?
Let's continue that conversation. So yes, there is a cask that we have bottled from Virginia Distilling Company, and it very well may be available to our patrons next week. We're going to have a call with them tomorrow. It's bottled. It's ready to rock and roll. And we're also going to commit to a visit to the distillery probably at the late February, early March timeframe. So if you're in the local area or you want to make a trip, we're going to be picking another cask for them. We've got samples from a distillery in Portland that were stoked, American Single Malt, and they're
I nosed them. I haven't tasted them yet. I just nosed everything, and they're all smell very good. I can't wait to get into them.
so that's in the making, and I'm stoked about that. To be honest with you, we just gave a sample of Milk and Honey out earlier, and yes, we're going to be reaching out to them because they want to provide a cask for us. So I think it'd be super cool to do an Israeli whiskey. But on the flip side, we also we're getting back in touch with Andalusia. We've got another distillery. There's
Lots
a
of things in
lot.
the work.
I mean, to be a patron and have access to the bottles, you guys know you can trust that we're not just taking a sample and bottling it. This is our second round of samples.
because we didn't the samples for the original round they didn't pass muster.
Yeah, and the Andalusia
So-
bottle. Yeah, we went through a couple of rounds of sample. We're gonna put out stuff that we think meets a 3.5 or better. I mean, it's here. We're coming at you with what we think is really good whiskey. So it's a good time to be in the community.
Yep, absolutely. Well, guys, fun show tonight.
Yeah.
Busy. Great seeing Gregor. Great seeing you
Yeah,
guys.
it's great.
Good dram. Really good dram.
Really good
Awesome
drams tonight.
drams tonight.
Yeah. Till next week.
Yeah, man, let's do it. Cheers, everybody. Love you. Thanks for being
awesome.
involved in the show.
See you next time.
3, 2, 1.